Hey guys, it's Derek with the Rolla Public Library, and today we're going to fill out this little worksheet packet that we included in your grab bag. This is Build a Retro Superhero, and the reason I kind of picked this activity was because as a young man myself, I really liked reading old comic books. I had a friend who donated a box of old comics, and I was reading stuff like Amazing Spider-Man and Batman and Batgirl and Superman. And so I developed a love for old superhero comic books, and so I thought it would be fun, especially for those of you who are like interested in culture and history, to make your own retro superhero and to follow kind of a step-by-step system for creating one. And you can use this worksheet to help you make kind of the basis of your hero, and then you can go from there on your own and then make like an origin story and then a comic book if you want. So the first worksheet is what are the basics of your hero, and so you're going to say what the super strength is. So what's special about your superhero is, or can they fly? Do they have a super strength? Can they knock down walls? Can they crawl on walls? Maybe they're just really experienced. Maybe they trained to the point where they're more athletic, or they're more mentally smarter than like an average person because of extensive training. A weakness, so every hero should have some kind of weakness, and sometimes they're more like tangible weaknesses. So like Superman has a weakness around kryptonite, or it can be more sophisticated. So for example, Spider-Man had a lot of vulnerabilities, especially if you think about Peter Parker and some of his vulnerabilities. So you can think about in those terms, or you can think of something tangible. Either way works. And then you want to create your superhero name and their alter identity. So if you had a superhero, what would they be doing, kind of as people who are living in the world every day, just like us? And then what kind of identity have they assumed as a superhero? The next step is to kind of flesh out who your hero is. And so you're going to first start by naming some fictional inspiration. So who is important to you? Who did you read a lot, or who are you interested in? And those are the inspirations. You're just going to list them out. So you might list Spider-Man, Superman, Batgirl, Batman, Robin, whatever heroes that you like a lot. You're going to just list them out here. Each hero usually has a tragedy of some kind that they experience, and that tragedy kind of informs their worldview. So you'll list your tragedy out. What did they experience? Like Superman lost his family on the planet and then he came here. Batman lost his parents. They have these various different tragedies that happen. That kind of influences a worldview that they have. So for example, Batman's parents were murdered, and then as an adult, his worldview, an important part of his worldview was that justice was important, that justice should be pursued. So there's a tragedy, and then it influences worldview at some point, or at some level. You'll also want to do, how did your hero get his or her powers? So you're just going to want to think about that, and you're going to want to have some kind of story associated with that. And then, where does your hero live? So what town does your hero live in? And then also, what time does your hero actually live in and work in? So is it in the past, or the present, or the future? Those are heroes. You can put your superhero at any point you want, but you kind of want to think about it beforehand. It's an important part of who your hero is what time they're in. Finally, this is how your hero looks like. Now, I'm following the Marvel, if you've ever seen Draw Comics the Marvel way, this is kind of following their model. I believe they did like 8 or 9 heads high. So each head, so you have like the head, and there's like 7 or 8 of them, or not 7, there's 8 or 9 of their heads stacked up as the length of the figure. And the reason why is because they tended to like real athletic figures. So I'm kind of following that as a retro superhero. You don't really have to follow that if you don't want to. There's lots of interesting examples where people will use different body types, but this is kind of like the standard for those old Marvel comic books or DC comic books. So it's a place to start, and there are retro comics that we're kind of thinking about here. So if you want to follow this, these basic forms, you can. But I would encourage you to kind of customize it. But this is a good one to start with if you're just trying to develop their costume. you know, the hairstyle that they're predominantly going to be wearing. You know, how are they going to, if they have a utility belt, how is that going to look, their boots, you know, just the basics of how their costume is. So it's a good starting place. So that's how you're going to fill out the worksheet. I hope that was simple enough for you, and I encourage you to go ahead and like this video. Go and look at the survey below and go ahead and fill that out, and thanks for watching.